What is going on? Thank you guys for listening to the ROSSCAST. Welcome back. I know that this is the first episode, but I truly feel like this show has always been a part of our society. It's been a staple in our culture, and it's just now that we're getting a chance to see it with our own eyes. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching with your eyeballs on YouTube if you're doing that. I am Ross at Shy Sports Ross on all the platforms. Make sure to drop a follow. Make sure to listen on Spotify, Apple, MySpace Music, YouTube Premium, YouTube Poop. All of those have the ROSSCAST, and now you do too. This is a place for me to come in and talk about some of the things that are on my mind. I've wanted a place to put some of these thoughts for a while. I had a podcast a couple of years ago, had a different podcast maybe like a year after that, and I didn't keep up with either of them. So this is a new start, a new opportunity to get it right. As Lauryn Hill said once upon a time, every day is a chance to get it right. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get it right this time. So let's start off by talking about what other team, who else are we going to talk about than the Chicago Bulls? The Bulls released their schedule not too long ago, just a couple weeks ago. Got a good look at who the Bulls are going to be playing in 2023, 2024. A few other things we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the BullsFest, my experience there at BullsFest 2023. We have some news coming in from the team about a very important member of the team. So stay tuned for that. You won't want to miss that. And then we have some news about the World Cup, where some Bulls are participating in the FIBA World Cup. So like I said, let's start off with the schedule, the Bulls schedule release. There are some important games that we need to take a look at. And I think the first one that I want to call out is the first in-season tournament game of the season, which is in November. The first one being a Brooklyn game. It looks like that one's at home. And then the following one is an Orlando game at home. And then we have two games on the road at Toronto and at Boston. So those games all take place in November, kind of spread out each week of the month. It's like they have a game, like the first week it's Brooklyn, second week Orlando, third week Toronto, last week Boston, that kind of vibe to it. So those games are going to be important. You know, obviously the Bulls have kind of a month to get their feet under them in October. Their home opener is going to be October 25th with Oklahoma City coming to town. So it's a home game. And you know what? I take that back. I'm looking at the schedule. It's actually only about a week. Only got about a week to prepare. They have the preseason games in October, but the regular season starts October 25th, and then the first in-season tournament game is November 3rd. So just a little over a week to prepare for that. Yeah, they've got some challenges ahead of them. I know that a lot of fans are a little bit disappointed by the way that this offseason has gone for the team. I'm of the opinion that this was kind of the best case scenario this offseason in terms of what they could have done without blowing the team up entirely. I do think that there's maybe some conversation still to be had around DeRozan and the fit there, and maybe what could have happened with, you know, his future and his contract that he's looking for. That's all a topic for another video. I talked about it in my last video talking about DeMar DeRozan. So you guys should definitely check that one out, but I'm not going to get too far into the DeMar DeRozan stuff in this one. I want to get back to that in-season tournament. You know, the in-season tournament's an interesting idea that the NBA has come up with. I know that it's a polarizing idea. A lot of fans aren't into it, and some fans are really into it. And some fans are on the fence, don't really know. I'm kind of there myself. I don't really know which way it's going to go. I do think it's exciting to try something new. I do think it's cool that the NBA is trying to get their players more engaged in the regular season. You know, the regular season in the NBA is kind of like, it's felt like a formality for a while. It's just like, we got to get through it to get to the playoffs. You know, players are resting, load management. A lot of teams don't really even take it that seriously. Like you look at like the Warriors and the Lakers and the Celtics of the last few years. It's like, yeah, regular season, whatever. We're interested in what happens when we get to the playoffs. So definitely a thing that the NBA is trying to be a little bit more conscious of. And yeah, they want to get players playing actual intense basketball in November through January. Tall task. Just not going to lie about that. Players are not going to want to take games in the winter that seriously. I will say the in-season tournament, it looks like it ends around mid-December, so players probably be happy about that. Once the new year rolls around, start to get towards the All-Star break, that's when things probably calm down a little bit more. But yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I think it'll be fun to see if the Bulls are able to make a run. We know that they're kind of a regular season team. I think I might have said this like 2 years ago when they were first building the team, but the way that the roster was constructed, it always kind of felt like this is a team that's poised to make a very strong run in the regular season. And outside of that, we've seen. So as I've mentioned before, the Bulls have 4 of those in-season tournament games, 2 away, 2 at home in November. Depending on how they perform in those games, they will either advance to the quarterfinals or be eliminated. If they manage to advance to the quarterfinals, they can make it to the semifinals and, of course, then the tournament finals, which I believe takes place in Las Vegas. I think it's Las Vegas. I could be wrong about that. Feel free to yell at me in the comment section on YouTube if I am. So the Bulls, I think, have a chance here to make a run. They do tend to start the regular season off a little bit hot. As we've seen the past couple seasons, they can start real nice in November and December, and things can fall off after that. So we'll see how things shake out in the next few months and how they perform headed into training camp. I think we'll get some more clarity on roles, on responsibilities in terms of who's the starting point guard, where Patrick Williams falls into all of this, how Torrey Craig and Javon Carter are going to be worked into the rotation. A lot of new things, a lot of new players, new ideas and schemes that can be worked out. I do think that there's a little bit more fit on the roster this season. There's less kind of forcing square pegs into round holes. You definitely have, I think, a stronger rotation of guards this season. So all around, it feels like the team has made, legitimate improvements, actual tangible improvements that should be noticeable. This should be a team that wins at least a few more games than they did last season. And if they won a few more games last season, then they would have been, at the very least, they would have had a better play-in seed, and maybe would have made the playoffs as that 7 or 8 seed. So that's a lot of words for the Bulls schedule in just November and December. I haven't even gotten into the new year. Looking ahead into the new year, February through April, that's when things kind of turn up a little bit in the schedule for the Bulls. Things are going to get tough. They're going to be playing a lot of playoff teams at home and on the road. Going to be going into hostile territory. And they have a large stretch of games against those Eastern Conference foes. A lot of teams that potentially could be making the Eastern Conference playoffs. You have teams like, Indiana, Atlanta, New York, Orlando, Detroit, and Washington, who I know, but is still going to give us some trouble. Detroit and Washington always give us a little bit of trouble. Golden State, Utah, Clippers, Dallas, Boston. That's between March and April. So a lot of opponents that are going to challenge the Bulls as they're potentially fighting for a play-in/playoff spot there in the spring. So it's definitely not an easy schedule by any means. It's probably a little bit less rough in terms of travel. Last season, the Bulls had that Paris trip that obviously made them have to rearrange some things with their schedule. There was a lot of tight back-to-backs and travel dates and stuff like that. Things are a little bit more spread out for the team this season, thankfully. Not as intense. So those are good things. Those are things to hang our hats on. Hopefully, like I've said, the Bulls can win. It just comes down to like 4 or 5 more games, 4 or 5 more games. And you're looking at a team that is a playoff team, not a play-in team. And, those changes, those additions, hopefully some of the changes in scheme or philosophy that Billy Donovan can identify with all of these new additions to the team. Having Javon Carter, having Torrey Craig, I feel like gives you some more versatility. Those are guys who can hit the 3 and play defense. We were kind of lacking that last season. You had guys like Goran Dragic, who was getting minutes, wasn't really able to consistently hit those 3-pointers or consistently play some defense. So definitely some improvements there. And really, like I said, if they're able to win a few more games, could be a totally different outcome this time around. And let's us not forget, the team that the Bulls could have. The team that the Bulls were 3 minutes away and a Coby White substitution from beating in the play-in game, from advancing over. They made the NBA Finals. That's all on that. Just want to point that out again. The Bulls were in a... I know that obviously you can't say that history would have gone the way it had gone had things been a little bit different, but Bulls had an opportunity had they advanced there to potentially beat the Bucks in the first round. So those are my thoughts on the Bulls schedule so far. I'll definitely have some more thoughts as we get closer to the season, as we head into preseason, training camp, all that fun stuff. So definitely not done talking about the Bulls schedule, but for now, I think we've kind of covered the big points of it. Let's move on to something that happened recently. BullsFest was just a little bit like a week and a half ago. It was August 19th and 20th. I had a great time being out there, seeing all of the Bulls fans. A bunch of people came up to me and said hi. I'm super, super grateful for you guys. It was really dope to see y'all. And there was a ton of great hoops. We had the kids mini camps. We had the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, the 3v3 tournaments, all kinds of really great hoops action, Chicago hoops action. It was dope to see everyone out there in the heat, in the summer sun, in the Chicago summer sun. So shout out to everyone who participated in any of those events. Even if you were just doing free play out there, it was hot, man. It was humid. It was hot. I was sweating. I couldn't even stand the heat for long periods of time because I'm a little baby. So shout out to everyone that was out there killing it in the heat. I had a couple really cool experiences while I was there at BullsFest that I want to share with you guys. Some moments that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life. We're talking about dream come true moments. And if you don't follow me on the socials, you might not have seen, but I had the opportunity to meet one of my favorite Chicago Bulls players of all time, a Chicago Bulls legend, surely a player that you guys all know very well, Nate Robinson. And he was and is one of the most down-to-earth and humble dudes I have ever had the pleasure of just like being in the presence of. We were in a group of like 20 people or so, and we were kind of sitting in this room, and they brought Nate in, and they allowed us to ask him some questions. We got a group photo together, and then we did individual photos together. And again, I just cannot speak to how humble and just like how normal of a dude he is. He's just like a guy who walked in the room, fist bumped us. He was like, "What's going on, guys? What's going on?" And everything was chill. We were just talking like dudes, just dudes being bros, man. And we talked about some experiences that he had as a Bull. Someone asked him what it was like to wear a Bulls jersey.
And the jersey that sports that he wore, it was just unbelievable for me. For me, I was a kid in the candy store. I just embraced and I loved every second of being a Bull. It was like one of the best feelings when I was in the league at the time, because it's something about just the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan and what he brought to the game and what it meant to wear the Bulls jersey. For me, that's probably my most memorable moments as a Chicago Bull.
I thought that was a really great answer, and it shows you kind of how much respect and honor basketball players have for the brand of the Chicago Bulls, but also just like the city of Chicago and what it means to represent Chicago on a basketball jersey. So that was really, really amazing to kind of hear Nate talk about that. He also talked about some of his teammates.
My teammates?
Teammates, yes.
Teammates? Well, Eddie Curry's here. He's one of them. It's a couple guys, man. I mean, my whole Bull squad, it was pretty cool. Boozer, Luol Deng, Joakim Noah, Rip Hamilton, Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. I mean, that squad, to me, was one of my favorite squads, because those guys were they're all humble and great guys. Like, I still talk to these guys today. And that's rare, to have friends, that long.
Yeah.
Because when you get older, guys have families and they tend to separate, and you lose contact with guys. But these guys we stay close with, and I'm real close with Boozer. That's like my big bro. Our kids grew up together and everything, so everything's been fun. The guys been great, but those are the guys on the Bulls I really cherish the friendship, because it's been going a long way.
So yeah, Eddie Curry was there. Obviously, he talked about some of his other teammates back in the day, Carlos Boozer, Joakim Noah, those kind of guys. And, you know, as a Bulls fan who was growing up in that era, those were my teams, you know, and I hold so much nostalgia. I cherish those memories. And like, guys, I cannot stress to you how cool it was to be in the same room as him, hearing him talk about these things. Not even from a perspective of like, wow, he's a basketball player, he's an NBA player, just like a guy who was there in the NBA, like who was normal, you know, like he's just a normal dude. He's not like this superstar with an ego. You're just listening to a dude talk about his experiences doing a thing. That's what it comes back to, man. That's why we love this sport. Basketball, ball in general, ball is life. And ball brought us together for that moment. And again, I'll never forget it. There was one other moment that I want to bring up. Shout out to my boy Camille. I don't know if any of y'all watching know who he is. And he kind of coordinated the whole Nate Robinson meetup. And once we got in there, you know, we were asking our questions. I had a question for him. I raised my hand, but we were done with the Q&A portion. So we did our pictures. I got a photo with Nate. And as we were kind of wrapping things up, he was getting ready to leave. Camille, he goes, Ross, you had a question, right? And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I did. And Nate Robinson's looking me in the eyes and it's like, it's your turn. Go ahead and talk. I didn't know that was coming. I did have the question ready. I asked him what it was like to play in the triple overtime game against the Brooklyn Nets in the playoffs. And even like not even just that game, but as an example, in that game, when you're going through that kind of scoring run, what does it feel like in your head? What does it feel like to be on fire, to be in the zone? Like, does your brain shut off? Are you thinking about the shots? Are you thinking about your next move? Just kind of what's going on in there. Unfortunately, I didn't get a recording of it, but I think it was better that way because as I was asking him the question, it truly just felt like he was talking to me. Like we were just kind of talking to each other, and it would have been kind of weird for me to just like pull my phone out and start recording as he was answering my question. So I was just there in the moment. We were just kind of chopping it up, as you would say. And his answer was great. You know, he said that it was like when you're a kid on the playground and you're just having fun. So that's what he equated it to. He said it was like in that moment, the happiest moment you could have, because it's the joy of just like being totally free, being a kid, just like having fun, a big smile on your face. And we all know, we watch Nate, he would always play with so much joy and passion. It was easy to tell that he was having fun out there. So I thought that was a great answer and definitely provided some context for the kind of player that we watched back in the day. So BullsFest overall was awesome. I met Torrey Craig, Javon Carter. I met Sam Smith. Met a ton of really, really great people. Got to see Benny the Bull again. We're going to talk about him in a second. Benny took a photo with Pan, which was awesome. Love to see Pan finally meeting Benny with a very ceremonious coming together between the two of them. It was very beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Obviously got to see all of my friends as well. Shout out to all my friends who I got to see at BullsFest. You guys are dope. Y'all know who you are, and I love y'all. So I mentioned Benny the Bull. I kind of alluded to some news around the team and a very important member of the team. And yes, you guys have probably already heard. Benny the Bull, the man behind the mascot, is retiring. This was the second Benny that I've seen retire in my years as a fan. And it never gets any easier, man. It never gets easier. Yeah, I mean, shout out to the man behind the mask who's been playing Benny for a few years now. Always had great experiences with that Benny, the previous Benny, as we will call him now, past Benny. Past Benny was great. An athlete. He hugged me a couple times. A dude was, or woman, person, was absolutely jacked. And you have to be. If you're going to be Benny, if you are going to be the mascot of the Chicago Bulls, potentially the most identifiable, the most recognizable brand in all of sports, Benny the Bull. He's going to get paid well, for one. Dude gets paid like six figures, like 400K, something like that. You're going to get paid very well. You are also going to be a world-class athlete. You have to dunk. You have to make half-court shots. You have to run around the entire arena all game. You have to run on the court during the timeouts. You have to mess with the other players. You have to be a part of everything that the team is doing. There's also events outside of the games that you're doing. Benny was at BullsFest. Benny was doing stuff at BullsFest. You are not working just during the season. You're also working during the offseason. So that is a demanding job. And I have a lot of respect for whoever the new Benny is. And I have a lot of respect for all the Bennies. There's a lot of Benny respect to go around. It sounds like the new Benny is someone who's coming over from another team. So a little bit of drama and intrigue. The Bulls have stolen a mascot from another team, the man behind the mascot, so to speak. So it's interesting to see if there's any kind of, do we pick up on any differences, right? Are there any nuances, variants? What's going to change with the new Benny? And are they going to be bringing things from their previous job with them? And are we going to be able to pick up on that? Are we going to be able to identify where this Benny came from? Be interesting. What if he wasn't even an NBA mascot before? What if he was an NHL mascot before? What if it was Gritty? What if we got fucking Gritty? It's doubtful. But want to say thank you and, good luck to the past Benny and all the past Bennies, wherever you guys may be. In the next stage of your career, hopefully it's a little bit more relaxed and you get some more time to chill out because that job looks intense. And I'm sure you've made some good money off of it. So shout out you. Good for you. That's the news on the Benny the Bull front. The last really big piece of news, the last item that I really wanted to touch on, our boy Nikola Vucevic is currently playing in the FIBA World Cup. He's there representing Montenegro, playing with other Bulls legend, Marko Simonovic. Y'all know Marco Hours. They're 2-1 as of recording this video. Montenegro's 2-1, advancing to the second round. With some ground to make up, they're going to have to win in the second round or they face elimination. So Vuce has been kind of hooping. Didn't have a great game the other day against Lithuania, playing against Jonas Valanciunas, who has been a guy that's given him trouble throughout his career. So not super shocking there. But shout out Vuce, shout out Marco, hooping overseas, doing their thing, representing their country. Vuce has been playing well, like I said, and I'm hopeful that he'll come into the season rested and ready to put up those double-doubles, because he's been putting up double-doubles, 27 and 10 in that first game against Mexico. He had a really good performance against Egypt the next game as well. He put up, 16 and 7. He had 2 steals, 3 blocks. That's great. That's big for the big guy. Not as great against Lithuania. Him and Marco kind of struggled, but still have some opportunities for that team to advance in second round. So good for them. Good for Montenegro. Shout out Vuce. Shout out Global Basketball, man. Shout out FIBA World Cup. Y'all should definitely be checking it out. A lot of great NBA talent on display. Guys like Anthony Edwards, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out there hooping for their countries. So definitely peep. But yeah, those are the updates that I had for you guys today on this episode of ROSSCAST. I think in the future we'll cover some other sports. I wasn't really prepared to do that today. I wanted to just kind of get an episode out there into ether, let you guys know that this is a thing now that we're doing. Again, make sure to subscribe on all the platforms if you're watching on YouTube. Rate and review. Make sure to give me those 5 stars and say, Ross, you're special and cool, because it tells my parents that I've been a successful adult, that I'm not wasting my time. So thank you guys for listening. This is the first episode of the ROSSCAST. We'll definitely be doing these again soon. Thank you. Good luck. Godspeed. We'll talk soon.